Well, welcome everyone to our Moms on a Mission call tonight. I do these calls every Monday night, and it's so important to me as a mom to share my story and hear other inspiring women share their stories about why this business and this product and this community and culture makes so much sense to them. My name's Jenny Little, and I live just north of Toronto here in Canada. And my story kind of starts, they always say, you know, you come to this business or product out of desperation or inspiration. And I definitely came to the product out of desperation. I was a mom of four. I'm a former educational assistant, so I used to work with kids with special needs. And when I had my twins, I decided to stay home and raise them. And, you know, financially we were sound, so that was good. And my job was to stay home and raise the kids, and I was very happy to do that. What had happened about a year and a half, or a year in rather, is I was so exhausted all of the time, and I felt that I couldn't share that with my loved ones because I felt like I had to be the picture perfect mom and wife, and I couldn't share that with anyone. So I used to beg my husband every morning to make me a cup of coffee just so I could get out of bed. And I remember listening to the boys screaming on the monitor because they wanted to get up, and I just could not get out of bed. And during this time, it was in the spring, and my husband started going to work a lot earlier, so he wasn't there to make my cup of coffee anymore. So what I decided to do was buy a coffee machine for my bedroom, and I did, and I put it on my nightstand. And my idea was I was going to make myself a cup of coffee every morning just to get out of bed. And I thought that was the most reasonable approach to life that I had. The only way I knew to gain energy was to do it with caffeine. And that's what I did. And when my husband came home, he laughed at me and he said, "What is this?" And I told him, and he said, "You know, you can't live off coffee, and this is ridiculous. You need to get some help." Alisa Herriman was a friend of mine, and we were friends on Facebook, and I had been following her for about a year, and I knew she was using the Juice Plus line, and I knew it was fruits and vegetables, and that made sense to me, but I didn't see how that could give me energy. So I reached out to her to see if there was any other way or a nutritional something that I could add to my diet to give me the energy that I needed. Because I remember thinking, there's no way that mom should be feeling like this. Is this how moms feel? And I felt like a failure as a mom. I felt like a failure as a wife. That little thing that you do that made those babies, that wasn't happening at all because I was so tired all of the time. My house was a mess, and I just couldn't get it together. And it was very embarrassing for me because I wanted to be the Martha Stewart, I guess, or, you know, the ideal mom. So I reached out to Alisa and I said, you know, what's the next thing? You know, what's the hit thing? Is it kale? Is it this? Like, what do I need to eat? What's the next superfood? And I explained to her that I was drinking lots of water and eating healthy and exercising every day. I slept very well because my boys were good sleepers, and I just didn't have enough energy. That's when she talked to me about what Juice Plus was and why it was so much better than what I was eating because it wasn't ripened on a truck for 2 weeks. And that totally made sense to me. So I trusted her as a professional. I knew she wouldn't put her reputation on the line just to make a buck. And I ordered the 3 blend. I ordered the Tower Garden because it's so cool. And I ordered the shakes. And within 2 days, I remember messaging her and saying, "Do these have caffeine in them? Because the capsules, because I've been giving these to my babies." And she assured me that they didn't, because the only thought that I had was that you get your energy from caffeine. So I was just so astounded by the product. I felt amazing. I stopped my coffee addiction, and you know, I started authentically sharing that with my friends. And what happened was I started to be vulnerable and share it with my other mom friends, the situation that I was in. And what I realized was a lot of these moms were in the same boat. They didn't have enough energy at the end of the day, or they didn't have enough money at the end of the month. So the business for me, I only joined because it was $50, and it actually ended up saving money on my own product. But when I started sharing that with my family and friends, they started kind of coming out of the woodwork like, you know what, we're in a lot of debt and this could really help me. And, you know, the reason I got into the job that I did as an EA was because I wanted to help people. I wanted to go home every day with my heart filled with love. I wanted to authentically give something to somebody and help people. And that's why I loved working with kids with special needs, because you will not find children with bigger hearts than those kids. But when I left that job, that sense of self and that sense of giving and helping was lost. My job was just to keep the house clean and make dinner and take care of kids, which is totally great. But I lost that sense of that financial contribution to my home, and that's what this business has given me. So in my first year with this company, I was able to offset my, I was actually able to replace my income from my previous job. And I got to do it by raising my kids, being home with my family, setting my own hours, and working with phenomenal people. Our culture and the community that we have in this business is so absolutely incredible, and I'm so blessed. And I actually kind of give Alisa trouble sometimes for not introducing me to this a little earlier, because I was desperate for a year. But I'm so happy to be a part of this. And my mission is, I know there's so many women out there that feel like they're maybe not doing a good enough job, or they're maybe not, making ends meet, and they just don't know any other option, and they don't know that there's another way. And my mission is just to share that with as many women as possible, as many moms as possible, because I honestly believe that no woman should have to rely on a job that they hate, or rely on a family, or rely on a man to be able to provide for herself and her kids, that she's completely able to do that on her own. And that's been my mission in this. Oh, getting a little bit of feedback there. Let me just mute a line here. Ooh. All right. Alisa, did you want to share with us your business and your product story?
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm a nutritionist, and I have been teaching nutrition for 12 years. And I was introduced to Juice Plus by a personal trainer a little over 4 years ago. And I immediately liked the products, the research, the certifications, all of that. But if I'm being really honest, I wasn't super comfortable with the business. And I actually chose not to use the products because of the business model. I had a bad experience with another direct sales product, and I just kind of put everyone in the same bucket. A year later, so again, teaching nutrition, my area of expertise is actually nutrition for people with cancer. And when I got into that over 8 years ago, I stopped recommending vitamins. I didn't recommend multivitamins, synthetic vitamins. There was some concerns with contraindications with medical treatments and synthetic vitamins. And I just took it completely out of my practice. So Juice Plus made sense to me because it was whole food, and it was the same as juicing, in my opinion. And I thought, wow, this is great. But again, the business was a little uncomfortable for me. Fast forward a year, I had baby number 4, and Jackson had a reaction to his immunizations. And that reaction left him hospitalized within 3 hours of being immunized. And then we spent the next 8 months on antibiotics. He had severe constipation. He developed severe asthma. Obviously, nutrition that we know the bowels and the lungs are connected. And his immune system just wasn't very strong. And we get off one antibiotic to get on a different antibiotic to get on a different one. And I had actually watched this trainer grow on a tower garden, which I thought was pretty amazing with my background in nutrition and chemicals and all that. I thought, wow, organic food year-round for my family totally makes sense. So I had reached out to her to get involved with buying a tower garden for my family. And she had suggested that I try the products for Jackson. And we bought tower gardens, and we started using Juice Plus with Jackson. And he recovered very quickly. He started to poop, which was kind of a big deal. And then from there, his asthma symptoms started to disappear. And by the end of the month, when we went to see the pediatrician, Jackson was infection-free for the first time in 8 months. And touch wood, he's been infection-free ever since. So that was my experience with the product. Once I had that result, I still wasn't actively sharing it, but I did get a couple of pretty tough cases of cancer as clients. And I was looking for something to help them with their diets. They were both late stage chemotherapy. And I thought, well, maybe we can get approval. Wrote a letter to the oncologist. The oncologist allowed us to use the Juice Plus with them. And I saw some results through blood work and through some clinical reports that really made me go, holy geez, this is pretty amazing stuff. And what happened from there is I thought, if this is going to help people who are not well, what's it going to do for the rest of us who aren't there yet, right? Like, what's it going to do for protection? So I just became an advocate for recommending it. And that was kind of my experience with the products. And I still, over 3 years later, heavily recommend it, because I know how beneficial it is to get really good daily nutrition into our families and how important that is. And that's kind of my mission in this, is how many people can I help improve their nutrition for. The business for me was a little bit different. I built it fairly, I reached our top level national marketing director in about 18 months. But I didn't run out of the gates. I spent the first 6 months learning about the business and sharing the products authentically. And the business kind of just started to grow on its own. I was attracting people into my business who were excited to share this with their friends and family. They were having good results. Their friends and family were having good results. And I just kept, organically sharing it. Almost 2 years ago, this March, we had an oil spill. We heat with oil furnaces here in Ontario, and we had our tank inspected, and we asked for it to be replaced, and it got filled, and we ended up with about 900 liters of oil in our home, which left us instantly homeless and our house condemned. So we were basically living at hotels with 4 kids, trying to put our life back together. And when that happened, my main income of consulting and teaching essentially disappeared. I wasn't able to teach. I was more worried about where we were sleeping and eating each day. And it was this business. I hit qualifying national marketing director homeless. And it was the Canadian bonus and this business that put my family into a rental home where we spent the next year as we kind of put our life back together. And the following month, I was able to hit national marketing director. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to take 3 months off with my children and be a mom. And that was almost 2 years ago. So I'm enjoying time home with my children, raising my children and being a big part of my family now. So I'm really, really grateful to this company, not only for the incredible products that we have, but also to the opportunity to allow moms to come home full time.
Awesome, Alisa. So there's a couple of things that you touched on. So, you never know when life is going to happen, and the importance of having a plan B. And I mean, you said it. I mean, if you didn't have this business, you wouldn't have even known what to do. And, so what does it mean to you now that you don't have to trade time for money anymore? What does that allow you to have?
And that's it. Like, I was raised by really hardworking parents, and it was always trade time for money. And even as a consultant and as a teacher, that's what I did. It's just freedom. It's the ability just to make choices based on what matters, to my family first and foremost, to take time off with my kids and raise them, and volunteer my time is a big one. So I now don't charge, very, very rarely do I charge for cancer services. I pick and choose, and I tend to only take on extreme cases, and I volunteer my time for the most part to those people to help them. So if I didn't have this business, I wouldn't be able to give back in that way. And that's kind of, really important to me as a human being, to be able to have a positive impact on someone else.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's allowing you basically to do what your heart leads you to do, because you're financially sound with the company. Thank you so much, Alisa, for sharing. Yeah. Gretchen, did you want to introduce yourself and where you're from, and also your product story and your business story?
I can do that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
You can? Okay. I'm from Essex, Connecticut, which is a small town in southeastern Connecticut, where I have lived now for 38 years with my husband. This is where I moved when I first married. And we have 3 grown children, all living in Manhattan right now. And when I found out about Juice Plus, so this is now 12, almost 13 years ago, I can say right now, that just to jump right in the middle of my story, Juice Plus made me the happiest mother on this planet. And I say the word planet because I was in my kitchen when a friend of mine she was taking her Juice Plus, and I said to her, "What is that?" And she says, "It's broccoli and blueberries and carrots and she just kept naming all these things, papaya and oranges. And I'm going, this is incredible. And all I could think of was Judy Jetson food. I thought, my God, somebody got really smart and did this. And we were what you would call a very average family, busy, just trying to do the best we could for our health. I mean, we were lucky in that we had been given good health. And let's see, I had 3 teenagers at the time, an 18-year-old son and 13-year-old twin daughters. And trying to get them to eat well was like not even part of the picture anymore. When you have teenagers that age, you're doing a lot of other things with them and not worrying about whether they're eating their broccoli. You're worried about other more important things. So, we were definitely cutting corners. And I had that feeling in my bones that we needed to do something drastic around that time, because I had lost at that point, in a very short period of time, 3 very good friends with cancer who were my age. And that's not, we were in our 40s. So that's a tough one. And I just saw this as the perfect solution for us to upgrade our diet and to just make it simple. And it would relieve a lot of the stress that came around the dinner table or any time of day. So even though Juice Plus wasn't created to replacing, it certainly gives you great peace of mind that you're doing something for your body that you need to do. So I jumped right in and bought my Juice Plus. My friend was not a representative, so I bought my Juice Plus from a total stranger. She was in Michigan. I actually thought, when my friend gave me her information, that this woman made the Juice Plus. I thought, God, she's so smart to have this kind of company. And we started taking it. Now, I had no inkling that I'd feel any different or I'd have any great results. But as it turns out, we really did have good results in that we have just stayed really, really well and healthy. And rarely get sick. I think the best story was 2 things that came to mind. I immediately felt more energetic. It's a peaceful energy that came over me. My kids felt it too, but they saw it in me more. And I remember one day my daughter was running up the stairs past my office, and she was it was in a new school, and she had some friends over, and they all were running up in front of her, and she said, "Hey, Mom, my friends really like you." And I said, "Well, that's really nice to hear. Why do you think they like me?" And she goes, "Well, you're so chill." And I looked at her and I said, "You think I'm chill?" She goes, "Yeah, Mom, you've gotten real chill since you started taking Juice Plus." And I'll never forget that. And it's true. It just, when your body's in that good nutritional state, you feel very balanced. So it was about 2 weeks into our, taking our Juice Plus, I started thinking to myself, this stuff is so awesome, and that our kids were on it for free, through the Children's Health Study. I thought, I'm probably the last person that ever found out about this. I mean, why didn't I hear about this before now? So what I did is I just started to naturally ask people, because I wanted to find out whether they knew about it. And if they hadn't, they certainly should know about it. So as I found out, they didn't know about it. They wanted to know more about it or to buy it for their family. So I gave them Susan Wittenbach's information. And about maybe 3 weeks after that, I got a call from Susan, and she said, "This is Susan Wittenbach." And I said, "Hi, oh gosh, we are loving our Juice Plus." And she goes, "Well, you must be, because you've given me about 5 referrals." And I said, "Well, who are they? I'm so happy they actually called you. That's awesome." And she said, "Well, there's a business behind this product." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Tell me more." Now, I just have to tell you, my background is in education. I was a school teacher, and then I stayed home to raise our kids. Very lucky to be able to have done that. My husband, Woody, was working very hard with his business. There's something about this combination, though. Someone that works really hard, makes a good living, and then I was the one spending the money. And I did. That's always a good combination. And we always had some struggles, because I always overspent. Just what I did. If the money came in, I would find a way to spend it. And we had a serious talk the night before the call came in about the business behind Juice Plus. And what it was about is that if we wanted to continue living the way we were living and send these 3 kids to college and continue dreaming the dreams that we had for our family, I was going to have to go back to work. Now, when you've been a stay-at-home mom and someone that really did have some a great way to live my life. I mean, nothing was being held back. I wasn't holding back. I should have been. It was kind of a scary idea. And so I said to my husband, well, how much money do I have to make the difference? And he said, well, all I know is I can't do it myself anymore. I'm going to need your help. So I started to think, well, I could go back to the classroom and teach, but I was going to lose basically my life. I was going to lose the way my life was, the way I loved it. At 49, to be able to get a teaching job wasn't going to be easy. To be able to leave my kids wasn't going to be great. I didn't like the idea of that at all. And I knew I wasn't even going to make that much money as a teacher, because you don't, unfortunately. That's one career, the most important for kids. And teachers don't make that much money. So I didn't really have any other options. So when I heard this option, I was intrigued. And I did it because I was intrigued. Number one, I was passionately in love with Juice Plus. Number two, I didn't have another option. And number three, I said to Susan, I know nothing about nutrition. I've never sold anything before. I don't know how good I'm going to be at this. And she said, well, that's good, because we're not looking for health professionals. We're not looking for slick salespeople. We're looking for people like you who love Juice Plus and want to go out there and help people understand what it is. And so I said, well, I'll give it a go. But what was interesting is I asked her how much money you could make, because I knew my what I was supposed to make. Woody said this would make the difference in our month. Well, when Susan told me what it was, and at this point, this was now 13 years ago, she was making $11,000 a month. And when she told me that, and I didn't ask her what she was making, that's not what you ask people, but that's how she answered it. And I said, okay, sign me up, I'm ready. So my husband came home and I said, I have a job. Because the night before he said, you need a job. And I said, oh boy, this is going to be tough. Well, he said, I said, I have a job. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to sell Juice Plus. And he said, oh brother, that's going to be great. Well, it was great. It started out great, because I say there are 2 days in this business that really do make the difference. The day that you decide that you're going to become a representative, and the day that you decide that there's no turning back. And there was going to be no turning back for me, because I, number one, wanted to prove to my husband that I could do this, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could. I was pretty intrigued that I could build a business at home with a product that I was totally in love with, and be able to prove that I was worth something, and I could continue in many ways being a teacher and educating. So it's kind of a natural consequence of what happens when one person falls in love with the product and starts leading others to see, what I was doing. I had to really have a strong posture about it, and to make sure that I wasn't wishy-washy. I was not going to turn back, even though I had a lot of no's, obviously, and challenges that we all have along the way. But that was, as I say, a turning point in my life that I will be forever grateful. And I guess I would say now, my why back then was to help educate our 3 kids. They've all graduated from college. We paid for all their colleges. They're doing really well in New York, and all, gainfully employed. I can't wait for my daughters, or one of them, at least one out of 3, has got to join me in this. And it's been a run of just amazing, getting to know amazing people, and a feeling that you are truly doing the most noble work I think that has ever been done on this planet, because we are making this world a better place for future generations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Oh my God. I think I could listen to you all day.
No,
I seriously, and it's funny because everyone's posture on this call changed, and we're all like you know? You mentioned something though that was really interesting, because you were, your husband was a successful businessman. You had this nice home in Connecticut. So I think a lot of the times we feel like we can't reach out to certain people and talk to them about the business, because we're like, oh, well, they have enough money. They're fine. They don't need this. And I mean, what would your life look like now if was her name Shelley, had she not reached out to you and said, hey, you've given me these referrals. Do you know what I mean?
I do totally know what you mean. And what was interesting, I've talked about this with Susan because we're now close friends. She's one of my best friends and mentors. I met her at my first conference for the first time. I had been in the business for only about 3 months, and I went to my first conference and met her there after talking to her on the phone many times. But she said to me that if she knew me, she would probably not have thought that this would have been, she would have made that assumption that I didn't need this. Mm-hmm. So you never, ever
know. Yeah. And I mean, and I'm sure Alisa was the same, because every post I put on Facebook was, oh, look at my happy, healthy, perfectly clean home, and look at how perfect everything is. So she wouldn't have known that I was a mommy. That's what I like to call myself, a complete walking dead mom, exhausted all the time. So I think it's really important to, go for it, like they say, to go for no, and just, throw it out there. And if it doesn't stick, oh well, go to the next person, because you never know. I wanted to kind of touch on your working with your husband, and how that came about. We only have 10 minutes left, but how that came about and how his role in your business has been successful.
Well, it was a dream of mine. I remember at my first conference seeing and being introduced to many couples who were doing the business together. And I thought, now that would be the best of the best. Mm-hmm. Because, I don't know, he worked very hard when we were bringing up our kids. And you don't really spend that much time, quality time daily with the person you fall in love with. And all of a sudden they're so busy and so forth. Let me see if this is what's happening here. Well, there you go. My battery was running down. So anyway, we went to a conference together. This was about 6 years ago, and his business wasn't doing as well as we had imagined it would at this point during the recession and so forth. He was in manufacturing, things man-made, Connecticut or U.S.-made products are all going offshore and so forth. So he became interested in joining me because, as he says, he saw me so happy and having such a good time, and my business was doing what it took me in 7 years to make, took him in 25 years to make in that business. So he saw something for him, and I kept on encouraging him way before 6 years ago. I was encouraging him the day. I said, why don't you just come along with me and do this now? So when he stepped up and said yes he would, I was really excited, and it just gives us such fun to be able to, we call it, living the Juice Plus lifestyle. I have a business downstairs in our home. Woody has one upstairs. He says Gretchen has the big office downstairs. He has the little office upstairs, and we do work hard still. And what's really nice is about having this couple businesses at our stage in life. There are couples that are looking for a way to retire into something, because retirement's not always planned out and not going to be as exciting as what people think when they leave their jobs. So we're a model for that, which is great. I love when Woody's been able to talk to men, young or old, or people who are, I'm too cool to get into a business, talking about fruits and vegetables in a capsule after, a big corporation with, making pianos and the hand tools and whatever. So it's fun to be able to hear him paint that vision for people that might have that idea that this is a women's business or it's not cool enough for me or whatever. So, 2 by 2 is the way we do our business regardless. Even if you don't have a spouse in the business, having a buddy of some sort to lock arms with.
Absolutely. And, it's so funny because, my husband builds custom homes and, he's getting to an age, I mean, we're still young, but he's 36 years old and he's starting to feel a lot of wear and tear on his body. And he's starting to look at my business like, that kind of makes sense. He hasn't jumped off that boat onto mine yet, but I mean, it's something that, like you said, we can retire together doing this because it's so much fun. And what would you say then to any new people or even customers that they say, I kind of have to talk to my husband about it? I get this a lot. I talk to friends or acquaintances or even strangers about the product, and immediately it makes sense. They're totally on board, but then I need to go talk to my husband. What kind of verbiage do you use, or how do you approach closing that?
It's interesting. That's such a good question, and it's interesting because I think that's probably what, if I had been invited to a Juice Plus event, fallen in love with the product and all of it, I was kind of feeling strapped. I mean, I have to tell you the truth. Woody didn't even know that I ordered the Juice Plus because he told me not to get carried away and spend a lot of money on it. So I probably would say I'm going to go talk to my husband. Now, a lot of women, that could be mean, and I'd ask. I've gotten good about asking a question after something like that, and I'll say, well, is it because you wonder if you should spend the money, or is it because you want him to do the children's health study with you, or are you going to ask him if it's okay if you buy another bag of greens for the week for your family to eat? And you sort of get an idea, because sometimes you don't know and you don't want to, say, okay, that's fine. I like to find out why, but I bet most of the time it's because they can't spend the money and they're asking, stay-at-home moms are on a budget, a major budget, and the husband, controls that, and that's one of the huge reasons why couples argue. And we had plenty of them, believe me, in our house before I started to bring home the broccoli, as we call it.
That's hilarious. And you know what? And that was kind of one of my incentives as well, was I was so sick of, hey, can I have the debit card so I can go grocery shopping? Or, almost justifying buying myself something nice because I felt that I was doing it with somebody else's money. And that was a feeling that I had never had, because I've always earned my own money, always paid for my own things. And then all of a sudden I was in a situation. And like you said, I mean, I so appreciate you saying, that there wasn't an option for you to go back to work, because there's been times even in my business where I'm like, oh, I can't do this, or this is hard, or whatever the issue is. And then I think, well, what are my options? Are my options really to drop my kids off at a daycare and be miserable at a job that I'm really not going to make that much money? Because as an educational assistant, I wasn't making a lot of money. And I was making money as a single woman, fine. But when putting twins in daycare, there was no way. And, I always use that, that core value of mine to be with my kids. And that is what drives me. So I so appreciate you saying that. I'm just going to open up the lines here in case there's anyone that has any questions that they want for either Alisa or Gretchen. Does anybody want to say thank you or ask a question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. One of the things I want to add to quickly is, being self-employed, my income was never consistent. This is the most consistent my income has ever been. And that's a big deal with having your own business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gretchen, for tonight.
You're so welcome. So much. It's my pleasure. Love you guys up there in Canada.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. And tk you, Alisa, for
no worries.
tuning in. I know you raced home from a wellness event.
I didn't get a ticket, so we're good.
All right. Well, good night, everyone. Hopefully we inspired you.
Later.
So,
good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.